It's going. Okay, cool. It takes a second for the internet to finally catch up because now the internet's really working. It's not just doing like up and down on two bandwidths there. There it is. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special Friday night after dark. I've got Roza Tawil. Saying that right? I want to butcher it. Okay, good. Tawil. And she's going to give us a lowdown as to her suit and kind of talk about, I guess, the little intricacies that she's dealing with and whatever else happens to pop up in the conversation. So, Rosa, thank you. I'm trying to line up the camera as best I can, but it's up here, so I'll end up looking down to try and talk to you. Excellent. So, you filed your emergency injunction, and the judge said, I need a complaint. So you filed a complaint. The judge said, I need a TRO. So you filed TRO, and the judge now said you need an affidavit of service. So that's where we're sitting? Okay. Oh, wait. One sec. I just realized no one can hear you. One second. This is life that I lead. Okay. Say something. I don't think it's coming through yet.
Good.
There we go. All right. You're going. Okay.
All right. Okay. So I filed the first. Am I able to be heard?
You're good.
By the people?
Yeah.
Masses. All right. So I filed the first injunction, and the judge said. So when I filed it, I gave a little bit of the substantive argument, but most of my argument was saying, Judge, this is worthy of an immediate order from you, because when you're filing an injunction, your focus has to be a lot of it as why an injunction is appropriate. So I made sure that the argument on why an injunction was appropriate, because an injunction says hold the status quo. We have the course of the law, like hold the status quo instead of making me wait until the end of the lawsuit, to the end of all of trial. Usually you get your order from a judge at trial.
Yeah.
You go through everything, and the judge gives his final order. It's saying, Judge, give me the order now because this is appropriate in this circumstances. So I didn't give too much of the substantive argument because I thought, well, that's typically you don't do that because you'll give the preliminary injunction, say just hold the status quo, and then we'll have the substantive argument over the course of trial. But in the meantime, don't let things get thrown out of hand.
Exactly, because it's time sensitive.
Yeah, exactly. So just hold it, and then we can argue back and forth about the merits of the case until the sky is blue. But don't let me once I lose, it's irreparable harm.
Yeah.
So don't let me face that irreparable harm. And the judge said, I need to have more of your substantive argument because what you gave me is not enough for me to say this irreparable harm is worth giving you the injunction over. I need more from you. Not because the focus of my injunction was this is appropriate because the elements of the necessities for the irreparable harm, not focusing so much on the factual argument.
Yeah.
So I gave him that in my complaint, which I like cranked it out like within 12 hours.
Yeah.
It was filed. So I was like, dude, all right, that's what you want. Like, you're gonna get it.
Yep.
And that was what happened. And then he said, okay, well, you filed another preliminary injunction, but what I really want is if you want to be heard ex parte, which means without the other side, you need to file a TRO. Because it's a temporary restraining order. That is the only reason a temporary restraining order differs from an injunction. The only reason is because it's ex parte.
Yeah.
Because typically restraining orders are to be protected from actions of the other party. So he said, if you want to be heard before they have a chance, you need a temporary restraining order. I filed it also within about 12 hours.
Yeah.
It was in his docket. And then I called plenty of times, and I said, I need a hearing date. I need a hearing date. I need a hearing date. Because I already knew that as soon as I got the summons, which came in on Monday evening, you get the summons, and then you can serve your stack of documents on the defendants, right? But you need a summons from the clerk. You can't just serve somebody.
Yeah.
You need something from the clerk saying this is like a stamp of approval to serve somebody process.
Yep.
I got the summons, and I didn't serve them right away because I told the judge's chambers, and I told them this when I was on the phone with them, give me a date and a time. I'll file a notice of hearing, and then when they get served, here's the date and time, show up,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because then they have for sure notice.
Yeah.
You can't say, I never got the notice, it was lost in the mail.
Yeah.
Affidavit, served, signed, sealed, delivered, whatever. Judges' chambers were like, stop calling us. And after they finally told me, like, stop, I did stop. But she said, I told her, like, do you understand that I'm not having any meritorious argument with you right now? I'm telling you, if you give me a date and time, I just want to serve it on them. I explained it to her. I said, ma'am, this is just logistical because I want them to be served with the notice of hearing by a
Yeah.
process server. And she said, I agree and I understand that, but the judge doesn't know if he wants to do a hearing or just rule on the argument. So we're not giving you a time. If he wants to schedule something, he will. And like, please stop calling. So I told her, like, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't make anybody uncomfortable with the calls. I did say that because I don't want to put them in a position where they're like, somebody's calling me and they're not supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
So I said, I'm sorry if you're uncomfortable with the calls, but I hope you can understand I'm doing this for transparency.
Yeah.
Give me a time and I will serve them. Then he sent a notice, an order saying he wants an affidavit of service proving that they have been served with the complaint in the TRO and the orders before he makes his ruling. And he also put it in the order. I sent you a little screenshot. Please stop calling.
They say like
So,
she's called my office 200 times or something like that.
no, he said she's called my office plenty of times. And then he said, I understand that the reason for your calling is just to schedule. Because I said it many times. I said, I am not calling on anything meritorious. I would not break that ex parte rules of calling judges' chambers. Like, I'm not dumb enough to do that, right?
Yeah.
But I said, this is logistical. You call the judge's office to schedule a hearing. That's just how you do it. You get on the judge's calendar. And I need the time so I can create a notice of hearing and serve it on the defendant. And she said, no, if he wants to do a hearing, he'll let you know, but he's not going to just let you schedule it or whatever. And I was like, all right, fine. And he even said in there, like, I understand you want to schedule a hearing. I have not decided on that. If I do decide, I'll let you know. Please don't call anymore. Or he said, no, what did he say? He said, I know that's what I know you want. You don't have to tell me again or something. I can read to you what that last sentence was. That I was like, okay, I get it, dude. He said something. He said, I do not need to be told that again. I understand. I have been told the plaintiff's called or because the plaintiff has repeatedly called and wishes to have a hearing. I do not need to be told that again. That's what he said. Okay, but anyway, at least he acknowledges I'm not doing anything unethical, right?
Yeah.
I'm not having my argument with him on the side.
Yeah.
And I explained it to them, and the judges' chambers were like, we get it, but no.
Yeah.
So now what I see, every time something happens, you go to your new spot and you to fit around and look.
Yeah.
What's next? What's on the horizons? Every time something happens, you have a new horizon. So now I need to look where we are right now and take a look around and say, like, what's on my horizon? He asked for them to be served. And to me, that says he wants to file a hearing or file an order on it.
Yep.
He wants to rule on it. But I think he wants to give them an opportunity to object.
Yeah. And say, like, no, we're just doing our duty as a regulator, man. We can do whatever we want.
I think he wants them to object to the irreparable harm.
Yeah.
I think he wants to give them an opportunity to say it's not irreparable harm.
Yeah.
Like, no irreparable harm will be done. But what I'm asking for, I think, is very reasonable, asking for them to halt their process of deleting shares because people are getting back false shares, right, of false companies. So I think halting that, like stopping them from deletion, reinstituting all the valid MMTLP, and forcing them to give an accounting before they can move forward. I don't think that's an unreasonable ask.
No, I mean,
but I think
the naked shorting is illegal, right? And
I agree. Yeah.
If they are somehow trying to give everybody shares that don't exist for the shares that don't exist, then they're proving that they naked shorted.
Yeah, and they're also diluting shares to valid shareholders, and they're also it's just theft. It's just fraud and theft. And there's something that I learned in law school that they say it smacks of fraud. I never understood that phrase, but I kind of do now because it just smacks you in the face. Like this just smacks of fraud. Like this is fraud. Okay, like if you're selling people shares that don't actually exist or that cannot be carried over, that is just fraudulent. I don't think my request is so unreasonable, but I think the judge wants to give them an opportunity to object to the fact that I'm claiming irreparable harm.
Yeah.
The typical timeline when somebody gets served is in federal court, I think it's 20 days after they've been served. They have 20 days to file their answer.
Yeah.
Or
if they don't answer,
to
then you use summary judgment, right? If they don't answer.
Yeah. Well, if they don't answer, then you file for a motion for default judgment. And once you get a motion for default judgment, then you get like a default from the clerk saying they never filed, clerk, give me my default. And then you give the judge the default judgment saying, Judge, I need a judgment of default because they've defaulted completely. But that's if they don't answer in 20 days.
But they will. They'll have some lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they will. But this TRO matter shouldn't give them the full 20 days to answer.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, Judge, they've been served. They understand that I filed for something emergent. Time is of the essence. I have included that. I said I'm asking for leave for a hearing if necessary.
Yep.
And if not necessary, just make a ruling because this is irreparable harm is on the line.
Yep.
And I'm thinking that he just wants to give them an opportunity to object, or if he schedules a hearing, give them an opportunity to like appear and object to the irreparable harm.
Yeah.
But I think that what I'm requesting is to maintain the status quo, which I don't think is so crazy.
No, I think it's smart. Yeah.
And I think also asking for an accounting, the thing is, it's hard with the accounting. I think it's the best. When you ask for them to stop the hold, it's like for how long, right?
Yeah.
Who determines that? FINRA.
Yeah.
If you're going to ask, who tells them when to continue the spinoff? Who would you ask? Who's the regulatory agency you would ask? Well, okay, when should they start again? FINRA, right?
Yeah.
So I had to give a triggering event, and the triggering event was, give me an accounting.
Yeah.
We'll look at the accounting, and if it's all good to go, continue however the hell you want, right?
Yeah.
If it's not all good to go, now we need to pivot again and look what are the best options to, reverse the damage.
Yeah.
I think the problem is FINRA's accounting is based on brokers. So we have to collect this from the brokerage, da-da-da-da. That's fine.
Yeah.
Still, what my TRO is still valid because that's fine. Before the damage happens, we're still going to ask you reissue shares and you prevent the spinoff until you get those. You better tell the brokerages you need them quick.
Yeah.
Like that's not a valid reason for me to say you can't provide the accountings just because they come from the brokerages.
Yeah. The brokerages, it's all electronic. You can go to be tap into a computer and it should be right there.
Not just that.
Yeah.
The brokerages and you knew that the spinoff was coming since July.
Yeah.
July 14th.
Four S1's filings. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you didn't have something ready, I don't think shareholders should be responsible for carrying the losses.
Exactly.
And I think
that's their dereliction of duty. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a huge risk to shareholders right now. And if something doesn't happen, we are literally going to see either a super dilution and expiration or just lawsuits for such a long period of time and some petty settlement at the end.
Yep.
Let the market play out.
Yeah.
If the hedge funds have to lose, if the brokerages have to lose, if the market makers have to lose, they took on the risk.
Exactly. Yes.
We didn't take on that risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're the ones who set up algorithms to naked short this stuff like crazy. We didn't.
Not just that. Shorting itself is a huge risk, and they all know it. There's infinite possibility for loss and limited possibility for gain. And they said it's worth the risk.
Yep.
You took it. You took that risk. You acknowledged it. You took it. So why is it stuck on our books?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it is an uneven playing field because, they're the market. They make the markets. Like they're the market makers.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're given superpowers over us.
It's such a huge liability to the banks because they could lose a lot. They're liable for these hedge funds. But at the same time, well, you know what? You're playing pretty heavy.
Yeah, you're giving them 30-1 margin. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the hedge funds, these people like really, they need to go touch grass. Like they've lost sight of reality, you know? And it's like, okay, but we are all the ones that are working, investing, just trying to like have some longevity.
Mhm.
And they're making like millions of dollars a year. I think they can take the loss.
Yeah.
Like why, like if you have to allocate loss of this on someone, why should it come from all of us?
Yeah. Why
We're
should
not
it
the
be
ones living high life.
64,000 investors versus 6 hedge funds? Like,
Yeah, and these hedge funds, they're all living these huge luxurious
mhm.
lifestyles. They're all doing all the like things that the average working person in America cannot do.
Yeah.
And right now you're going to allow this risk to be allocated that who took on the risk? The hedge funds. Who took on the liability for the hedge funds?
The
The market
banks.
makers.
Yeah.
Did they not know what was going on? They really didn't. They were innocent. Don't be liable for somebody then.
Yeah.
Like
Do
I'm
your
not
homework.
liable. Yeah, I'm not liable for people who I don't and I don't know what they're doing. Like I don't take on that liability, right? So now I'm not responsible for them. Market
um
makers take it on because they make good money.
so I'm seeing them pop by here. The halt must be lifted on Monday according to the rules. 'Cause I guess there's a 10-day limit for a U3 halt.
So they can extend that 10-day limit.
Okay.
Also, the 10-day limit is like strange because technically they kind of created those rules on their own.
Yeah.
Congress gives them like certain amount of power where they can regulate and they just have to be within this power. That's why they are an administrative because they're an administrative arm,
Yeah.
you have to go through administrative law to reprimand FINRA. That's why people are like, "No, you can't sue," and people keep
Yeah.
telling me like, "Just be careful." You can't burden them with litigation
Yeah.
for damages. You can, but you have to go through an administrative process first, and
Yeah.
it's a lot more complicated than that. It's like you have to file a complaint, file another complaint, point out what they're doing
Yeah.
that does not follow the intelligible instructions of Congress. Like it becomes more complicated.
Yeah.
But suing them for an injunction, that's different. That's equitable relief
Yeah.
from an action that they're doing, and they have autonomy over the actions initiated by them and seized by them.
Yeah.
So just different. So that's why an equitable relief against them is a lot easier because you can say they chose and had like an autonomous decision over instituting this halt, and only they can release it. So it's appropriate to ask for equitable relief against them.
Well, it also contradicts their own corporate action they did, 36 hours before, right?
Yeah,
Like yeah.
100%. That was just to me, that was like, why are you moving the ball so much? Because clearly you understand that your boys in these hedge funds are about to get lit,
Yeah.
like on fire, and you just don't want to be part of it.
Yeah.
And you want to insulate them. But by insulating them, you're legitimizing the wrongs that were done.
Mm-hmm. 100.
And you're supposed to be reprimanding and like protecting investors or whatever they claim to be
Yeah.
doing. But
If you're the regulator, you should be regulating them because
yeah,
they're
exactly.
the
Instead,
ones that have the power to do the wrong.
yeah, and you're insulating their wrongs. They're like a clear wrong coming right at you, and you're insulating it. And then the issue with it too is it's just if you go to sue them, it becomes more complex. The best way to do it is to stop it now. And the halt is 10 days, but also those halts are only supposed to be implemented on trading stocks that are trading over like extended periods of time.
Yeah.
So you're not supposed to implement a halt when you're it's supposed to be 10 days because it's trading, 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 halt.
Yeah.
Halt ends, trading, 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 trading. Like you're supposed to be able to trade and then a halt and then you continue trading.
Yeah.
This was like trade and then you implement the halt and it's a complete seize
Yeah.
on any forms of trading on this stock. So the 10-day deadline like doesn't matter. They can just extend it. Also because it's an improper use of this function that they have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the times they used it on domestic stocks
It
were
was like in 2013 or something.
yeah. There's one where a company was doing a 100-to-1 reverse split and then a 10-to-1 forward split right after that, and FINRA was like, "What the hell are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
we're just gonna put a stop to this. Figure out why you're being weird. Why don't you just do a 10-to-1 reverse and then be done?" And then the other time was actually this last summer with BBig, Vinco Ventures, where two insiders were suing each other. and they put a halt on it. They're like, yeah, you guys need to figure your shit out before we keep trading, because we can't have investors worrying about, the CEO and the CFO suing each other at the same time. Figure it
Yeah,
out.
literally.
So they forced them to like basically do a settlement, and then they went back to trading. And then there's this one, which in the other 232 times or whatever it's been done, has always been on a foreign stock that trades in OTC, where it's some Chinese company that's basically a fraud doing something
Yeah.
weird, or some company out of South Africa that's like, founded by like warlords or something. And so they're
Yeah,
like,
I
oh,
was
wait a
gonna
minute.
say
We don't want to
apartheid
fund
level.
terrorism, so we're going to stop trading of this stock. And that's been like the other example. So domestic stocks, I would love to hear what their claim is for the extraordinary event. Like, what would be so extraordinary that you had to stop
About
trading?
what would be so extraordinary that you couldn't have figured out in the past 5 months since July?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I bet you they'll give the argument that's like, well, it says there's only 6 million shorts out there. Well, okay, then why couldn't you close those 6 million positions in 2 days?
Exactly. Why are you trying
Yeah,
to force them into the company?
yeah.
Also, if somebody borrows on your stock, you're entitled to that stock.
Mm-hmm.
So you're disrupting that contract. So FINRA is now breaching a contract on behalf of how many people?
Yeah,
Because those are contracted events, those lending out shares for
exactly. And
shorts.
I turned off lending in my brokerage account. I said, do not lend my shares to anybody, and I did not go out and purchase fake shares intentionally. Right? So,
So I turned off lending, and I didn't know this until I was, like, learning about shorts, and also I kept getting messages from Robinhood that said, "You can be earning interest on your shares, you can
mhm.
be earning interest on your shares." But Muslims, I don't know if you guys are familiar, Muslims, we don't use interest at all.
Yeah,
So, like, we don't use any form of usury or interest, so I was like, "Obviously, I'm not gonna turn these on." Like, even bank accounts, I had to ask them, like, "Please take off the interest
yeah,
on my bank account." But, some people are, like, more lenient, some aren't. I don't
yeah.
know. It's, like, kinda like, do you like, I don't know, like, how much ketchup do you like on your hamburger? Like, people vary, right? In their, like, devoutness or whatever, but, um, I don't know. I've grown up lucky enough that I was able to say, "Yeah, just turn it off for me, and I won't cross that line if I don't have to."
Yeah,
But they kept telling me, "Do you want interest on your shares?" And that's why I was like, "So I don't have share lending on."
yeah.
I don't know how I invented this. When I created Robinhood was back before Dogecoin came out.
Yeah, well, they didn't start share lending on Robinhood until sometime in the last year.
Really? Because
Yeah,
I don't have it on.
yeah.
Well, then I don't know why, but I lucked out and didn't turn it on maybe?
Well,
Maybe you have
if you had a margin account, they would automatically put your shares into lending. But then, if you have just a cash account, which is what I have my brokerages in, you'd have to specifically tell them also to, like, don't lend my shares, because they will still do it. And a lot of the rectifying and clearing has to do with someone selling a share that doesn't exist. So, and it goes to someone, another brokerage. That brokerage is like, hey, I just gave you cash. Where's the share? And then the
yeah.
person who sold, their brokerage goes, oh Christ, and they reach into an account and they pull out a share out of some random person's account and use that to rectify the trade. And then that's when the T35 clock starts. Is that supposedly when that brokerage gets the T35 and the person who sold the naked share hasn't covered or closed, they're
Yeah.
supposed to liquidate that guy. But then we get into the whole deal of like the swaps and debt swaps and all the things that just
So
screw everything up.
if you read my complaint, you'll see that I attempted to explain a lot of this in the most basic forms of it, by the way. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't include timelines. I kept it and everything you'll find. You said that your roommate is like familiar with is he an attorney?
Paralegal. He organizes like really big cases that go to like federal
Does he
courts.
wanna go does he wanna move to Tampa? Because I need a paralegal so bad.
he's done stuff for like Shell Oil and big murder trials, and yeah.
Oh,
So
okay, well,
yeah.
if he ever wants to be a traveling paralegal, please let me know, but, um, so I have another cat here. I'm just a
Hey,
cat
buddy.
whisperer, like,
Yeah.
cats. This is Lola,
Hi, buddy.
but, so I where was I going with this? Oh, so if you looked at my complaint, I attempted to explain all of this in very simple terms. So the judge, it's something called industry background. You put it on complaints that are like highly specialized. So I attempted to explain these things to the judge because I'm trying to tell the judge, like, listen, here's where it all went wrong. And they had an opportunity where they had the duty and the obligation to settle this. And instead they just chose not to. They just, it was a choice. That is a choice that they made. And we are paying for it in the end. And I hope that I got that across to the judge. I'm hoping that he's like ready to rule for me, but he's like, I don't want this to blow up in my face. So make sure they're aware, give them the opportunity to object. And if they don't object, I hope he'll just rule.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. And maybe they will object, but I have a feeling, I don't know, maybe it's just my like spunky optimism. Maybe, but I just feel like they're not going to object to the TRO because maybe they won't. Like, what could they possibly say?
Yeah.
At this point, or what are they prepared to say? I guess.
Yeah.
No, everything's all good.
Someone pointed out in the show last night that like what SBF is being arrested for and charged with here in the States is essentially selling Bitcoins that don't exist. So like we're going to regulate an unregulated crypto platform more than we regulate the regulated equities market, right?
Yeah.
That's give me the 10-minute warning here.
Harvey, what are the questions?
Shall I jump in and see if people got some good questions here? Might as well. Daphne says, I saw on Rosa's Twitter. She won't need a hearing if with the TRO or the affidavit she's filed. Okay, that's not really the question. Nil21981. Why do you think MMTLP has to be settled by year end? I'm pretty sure their plan is to kick the can until dividend is actually announced. And that
the dividend was announced is in exchange for a private company. A dividend doesn't have to be an actual sale. No. So the sale was, so what you can do, and I learned this actually in securities law, is you can stockholders or issuers can say, we're going to acquire this asset and we're going to give out stocks instead of capital because we don't want to give out capital for tax purposes, for other purposes of like, you want to bolster your company as like, look at our company, we're worth this many $1 billion and we own all these assets. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't tell us that you diluted our shares by like 100 million last year to acquire these, right? Instead of acquiring debt or losing assets, or sorry, losing actual cash and liquid, or acquiring debt, what they'll do is they'll introduce new shares. And that's like one of the avenues that a company has to progress with and like maintain a certain level without and they don't lose it. The only thing you lose is you dilute your shares. And another way that they'll do that is they'll dilute the shares, gather all the assets, get all the money, and then later they'll start buying the shares back and reinvest, and then now closing out that like expansion that they've done, and they'll buy shares back. But that's up to the company to do.
Yeah.
Bolster up the company from within. So that's another method. So that is the dividend. The dividend is a company.
Yeah. So
it's like how they did the reverse merger.
Yeah, they have to give us a share because that's what we got as this dividend. And if you got a naked share or synthetic of some kind, counterfeit, you aren't getting one. You're getting MTLPP, ZZZ, or
ZWP, whatever it is.
Yeah, and each
number XYZ.
Yeah, and so and plus the S1 said it should all be sorted out within 14 days of the issuance, which is Tuesday. So
I'm sure they're gonna add holidays and whatever else. Somebody's birthday occurred. I don't know. They're gonna add it all.
I do think it is in our favor that Christmas and New Year's fall on the weekends this year, so there isn't like interruptions during the week where people can be like, "Well, I wasn't in the office." So it allows us to like be more annoying as through the entire season.
I can't believe FINRA also instructed their employees not to show up.
Yeah, they sent them all home.
That to me was showing like clearly they know what a problem this is.
Yep.
and they're just pushing on anyways. Like that to me was a bit of a shock.
Mm-hmm.
But it shows me they have no plan. They have nothing in place.
Yeah.
So what are they going to argue against my filing?
Yeah.
I'm asking for an accounting. What are you going to object? And no, everything's all good, Your Honor. Trust me. Just
Yeah, exactly.
trust me,
Yeah,
bro. Like
that's exactly what Binance and FTX said.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
no, everything's fine. It's cool. Yeah.
Like, okay, just give us the accounting then.
Yeah.
And I will be on my way. Give me the
Yep.
accounting. And as long as it all checks out, I'm good. The only thing I worry is that they're going to give me some kind of super convoluted accounting that not even like you could bring, I don't know, Einstein down and he would say like, what did you give me?
Yeah. I mean, it
It's
should,
gonna be
should seem simple.
a-
Like this is what's in AST. This is what's in the brokerages. And you just count them up. And if it's more than 165 million, then
I'm worried they're going to give me something that's going to be like legit hieroglyphics, and I'm going to need some kind of finance expert from God himself to come down and translate it for me.
some sort of
So
special CPA nerd shorthand. Yeah.
I know. And I tell everybody, I have a professor who's a director now. He was appointed to be a director in the SEC. And I have blown up his phone. He tried to call me back one time, and I didn't answer. The amount of people I have been just calling nonstop. I'm now a stalker. It's really sad. I've never thought I would cross over this threshold into becoming a stalker, but here I am. So I've just been blowing him up. But if that case, if I got the accounting, I think I would fly either to Chicago or to DC and just be like, I need to see him now.
Yeah.
I need to show him this paper. Please just tell me what this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're my mentor. Mentor me. Let's go.
I'm sure there's a forensic accountant somewhere in like either this chat or in the movement in general.
There was somebody named Ryan Wilson.
Yeah.
And I told him I need this process server served same day. And he's an MMTLP investor, and he has something called Proof Service. It's actually a really cool process service website where you like just send your documents in, and it kind of has like, it's like an app kind of, and they have an app where and they send you a picture and everything. It's pretty cool. And he got it done same day. So that's how I was able to get it and then send the judge the affidavit and say, all right, everything you're telling me, I'm just hitting it right back. This is tennis.
I mean, it's a great thing about having such a big community is that like there's going to be someone who's an expert in that thing. And and they're
I just worry about NDAs about it.
Yeah. So if there's a forensic accountant, please raise your hand.
Yeah, if you're a forensic expert, please send me a message on Twitter. Although I get hundreds of messages on Twitter, so
I know what that's like.
Tag me and Houston, and one of us will send it to the other one.
Perfect.
Because I think that is going to be important. I have a feeling that right now we're at the point where the judge is waiting for them to object, and if they don't object, then it's like, okay, dude, make a ruling. I'm asking for a ruling on this.
Yeah. So
then it's up to his discretion. So I have to overcome an objection if it comes, and his discretion.
Yeah. It is. I mean, if you get a ruling in your favor, this would literally be a precedent-setting case. So, because no one's done this before. No one's.
And it's insane to me because it's insane to me because it's like people just wait and everybody has asked me or told me, I have met with attorneys and they won't take it. They said, wait to see what happens with this girl, or just wait until after it all happens and then we'll sue a class action.
Yeah.
Why? That is a way worse outcome for everybody. We just have to wait and see what happens. You have to capture the damages, which is how do you do that if they just keep kicking it down and you don't have any transparency, and then everybody loses, like everyone, and you need a face case for a class action. So they just try and collect everybody and then they look for the face.
Yeah.
So out of who has the most, it's just, the whole thing is just class actions are not the best avenue. Nobody wins in them.
Yeah.
And I'm just like everybody's attorney is saying that. So I realize like people just don't pursue this in general.
That and like, discovery on those class actions. You'll send an interrogatory to ask for documents, and they'll send you 10,000 boxes, and it'll be full of like their children's drawings, and that's in there somewhere. Yeah.
And the face of the class action is responsible for paying for all of the legal expenses.
Yeah.
So they'll look for somebody who can afford it, but who also looks sympathetic enough to be a strong face.
Yeah.
So I would never be a face because they'd say she's an attorney.
Yep.
She's not sympathetic enough.
Yeah.
Although I think there should be sympathy for attorneys.
Okay. Try to find. So, would you like to stay on a little bit longer? I mean, it's only
Yeah, we
minute
can.
25 left.
How
I
do I?
can redo the Zoom, and
Okay,
it's gonna boot you
you're
off
just
here
gonna
in
send.
90 seconds.
Okay, is it the same passcode?
No, it'll make me do a new one. So I'll just send it to you on DM real quick
Okay,
when you disappear
okay,
for a second, and everyone will be like, "Oh, she's gone."
okay.
Um,
Bye, friends.
yeah. She's got a minute 3 seconds, so it's she can do a little dance while we. Okay. B2B brand FINRA was told the registration was illegal when it was discovered, and they said they did not care and were not stopping it. This could be used against them. What was that one from? Sorry, I'm seeing things.
They said they don't care.
When MMTLP was initially created by the two market makers in October 2021, this is what that has to do. Without Metamaterials consent and approved by FINRA, why was this obviously not criminal? Can this aid in a present or future lawsuits? So basically the two market makers went, let's create a market, and they did it, and then the issuers, the Torchlight Metamaterial guys were like, whoa, FINRA, what the hell's going on? This is not supposed to trade. FINRA's like, no, too late. And that's kind of seems like what that was the response.
Didn't they have an excuse out of it that was like, you guys wrote transferable?
Oh, and that's her disappearing. One sec, new meeting. Yeah, get that going again. Participants. Copy. Go back to here. Go to there. Click that. Paste. Send. And hopefully she'll come right back in here in a moment. Okay. She's about to say something awesome, and then poof, that was it. How's everyone doing? Having a good time? All right. Excellent. Well, it's a good thing I did one more show. I had one more kind of Christmassy shirt to wear for the day. So, just going to wait for the little Rosa wants to join the meeting thing. Let's see here. Come on, Rosa. Check your DMs. Get that code. Okay, she hasn't seen it yet, so she hasn't opened that. Partly stupid electric stoves are better than gas. Fight me. All right, I want to relay that one to her. Where I live, we can't do. Well, some people can because they get like propane tanks, but our island, because of the tectonic plates, they just made a law that said no gas lines. So if you want to have a gas stove, you have to get a propane tank and deal with it that way. Otherwise, you just have an electric range. Personally, the electric range works fine. It does its job. Turn it on, it gets hot, cooks pretty evenly. We'll see what she has to say and if she's going to fight you purportedly stupid. Oh shit. Ah. Nope. Apparently I forgot to send. Come on. Nope. Participants. There we go. Invite. Copy link. There we go. Did I do it? Nope. That didn't do the passcode. What the hell? What the hell? Why isn't it copy invitation? I do it? Ah, there we go. Ah, got it. Okay. I copied the wrong thing. I was just saying the link, and she needed the passcode to get in here. So, it wouldn't be a Houston We Have a Problem show unless I absolutely muffed up the technical side of this thing. And there she is.
Hello,
There we are.
friends.
So, you're about to pontificate on the FINRA guys being like, yeah, they can trade.
So they kind of took. I know that the issuers were saying this is not supposed to be traded. It was John Berta and George saying it on when that reverse merger happened. But I think, if I remember correctly, it was because of it was because the actual word of the contract was transferable that they said that um they were allowing the method of transfer or whatever it was. And because technically it wasn't breaking the agreement, it wasn't a breach of agreement.
Yeah.
And it is they did set it up as a preferred stock. It's not illegal to do it's not illegal to trade on a preferred stock, a preferred share. If they had set it up as something else and not as a stock, like not as a preferred share, it would have been different. But it's a preferred share. So, I mean, and they didn't put any language saying it's not tradable. So technically, although they know it wasn't supposed to or intended to be tradable, there's not really a legal question as to the trading. Because it's like, well, you didn't use. That's why language matters.
Yeah.
And your transactional attorney could really make or break your whole thing.
I do wonder, like how much of the spirit of the law matters versus the technical loopholes in something like this.
Yeah.
Like,
well, if you had something ironclad,
yeah,
it changes your perspective.
yeah. So like,
right?
in when it originally filed for that preferred share, they're like, this will stay in your account. It's not going to trade. But if someone is purposely trying to dig around and find some sort of loophole and be like, well, so there's a loophole that was in there. Was that the intent, right? Or is that
Yeah.
the spirit of
Yeah.
what was written?
Or was it to me was it intentional?
Yeah.
Or was it problem solving because now you have all these shorts out before the merger and we're just going to pack them into this thing and like deal with them later.
Yeah.
And you know what else I think about? This reverse merger was a 2-for-1, right? How many shorts did they just bury in the 2-for-1? Now we're deleting. Let's just delete.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. Like I would love to get my hands on those books.
I think Wes Christensen and like all those folks who've been wanting to see like the DTC logbooks for a long time would love to see that. Yeah. That's the other thing is looking through various lawsuits, like the big protracted ones that have gone out for these companies have been short out of existence and they sue, is that time and again they subpoena the DTCC and the DTCC somehow avoids ever having to respond. They just don't ever show their books.
I think that they may be showing them, but it's under like you're probably under an NDA or some kind of like that's why I think about is if they send it to me, I'm probably going to be under some kind of gag order that I cannot speak about it or disclose anything that's presented to me.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's like, well, I'm a shareholder, and if I see in these books anything shady, well, yeah, I'm going to pursue it.
Well, yeah,
right? Because
and the NDA can't keep you from talking about something that's illegal, right? Like you can't if you see the books.
The books show that there's naked shorting. They're not going to say like, here's a naked short, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to be discrepancies. And I don't think I'll be able to talk about the numbers themselves. So I don't think I can point and say, here's the discrepancies. But what I can say in my filings, it'll probably have to be redacted, is there are discrepancies. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And it's causing a dilution of the shares. And that is what my whole lawsuit's about.
Yeah.
So I think I can point to that and say that because that's evident. That's directly ties to my claims, which I'm making from before I even had it. So you can't tell me I can't say what I was already saying before I even had the accounting presented to me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the difference. And then it's just, I wonder with these lawsuits, the DTCC also, they are not the ones regulating. That's the difference too. DTCC is like, it's like they're creating the exchange, right? They're going to manage the actual exchange that FINRA presents to them.
Yeah.
But FINRA is the one that's supposed to regulate.
Sorry,
and
the dog
instead
is
they're
just
That's okay.
not competent with the blanket. Get under the blanket, buddy.
Instead they're reinforcing
Yeah.
this theft. Like, what can you call it if you're not going to call it theft?
Exactly. I mean, we use this example all the time. Like, I can't use my laser printer, print off a few $1 million and hundreds, and go on a spending spree, right? I can't sell my neighbor's house without telling them. I can't, like,
have you heard this real estate market has been crazy?
I can't sell a car I don't own to 10 different people, collect their money, and just peace out. But somehow,
have you ever heard of Blockacre and Blackacre and Whiteacre?
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how that happens with the homes.
but like, the
these are all crimes.
Yeah, no,
right?
like
These are all crimes. It's a crime.
It's a
crime is a crime.
Yeah.
A spade is a spade.
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But it's because they are the regulatory they are the regulatory agency. So when the judge is going to ask, okay, so who's going to regulate them?
Yeah. Who regulates the regulator? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're the ones that set the rules, so we should just trust them that they're setting the rules.
Mm-hmm.
But they're setting the rules in a way to rig it against everybody else. They're setting the rules in a way that they're protecting their own interests, mm-hmm. and they're protecting the interests of their friends.
Yeah.
And that is an economic interest to them. I got into a fight about this actually one time when I was in law school with the same professor that I keep stalking right now. There's something called promoters, right? To promote a stock means you're going to go and talk about it and get people to buy it.
Yep.
And you're like a promoter. And sometimes the promoters won't even hold shares in the stock. Sometimes they get like a salary.
Yep.
But they are also liable to an extent because they promote the stock before the company becomes a company.
So to
get enough shareholders and investors. Yeah. So they still have a liability because they are the ones directly in contact with the investor.
Yeah.
But there was a guy in this one lawsuit, and he was promoting the stock to his family and friends and this and that. And I don't remember the exact details, but the question came down to, is he liable? Because you have to have an economic interest or a commission. If you're not being paid a commission or an economic interest, are you really a promoter? And there's the concept of a social interest, a financial exchange that from a social gain. So these hedge funds that are on the board of FINRA, right? These people who are that work at banks, they work at Deutsche Bank and or whatever how you pronounce it. They work at Wells Fargo, one of them works at whatever. So all these people, they have a social economic interest that they're protecting their boys who are gonna feed into this loop of financial interest that surrounds all of them. So there is a social standing, there is an interest that is tied to your social, financial, economic interest.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact phrase for it was, but I remember that was something I argued so hard. And it was like, yeah, you do have a social interest because this guy who's promoting the stock, even if he's not taking a commission or whatever, he's pumping up the stock to people and he's now gaining a following, gaining these people who are now turning to him for advice or whatever, and that can turn into a fraudulent situation really quick.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you have a social interest in promoting this. You have a social gain. You've now gained a new social strata, right? Like you're at a different status. And especially if you're looking in the terms of the people who are on the board of FINRA and their hedge fund and bank friends.
Yeah.
And they all work at banks as CEOs and CFOs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really think that they're not getting an economic interest by protecting their boys?
Yeah. Like, they don't want the hedge fund to go belly up because they're the prime broker on the hook. So they're going to do everything they can to avoid having to cover those liabilities because they lent to them 30-1.
And what is a monopoly? It's when you have separate economic interests, but you work in concert to preserve those interests against investors or consumers.
Yeah.
They're working in concert directly by working through FINRA.
Yeah. Yeah.
and using FINRA to exact those interests or to further those interests and exact a plan that insulates a literal crime.
Yeah.
Like, that's not monopoly. That's not a plain monopoly. That's a monopoly plus.
That's
Like, that
RICO.
is monopoly.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, really. I mean,
That
organized crime is what it is. It's
it's
like racketeering.
it's just like it's monopoly.
Yeah.
RICO had a baby. That is FINRA right
Yeah,
now.
and
Like,
his
that
name
is
was Chad
literally.
Chaddington the Fourth, and
Yeah.
it's a member of a
You know,
country club. Yeah.
I watch this YouTube. I don't watch too many YouTubers, but I will say I watch this guy. His name is Jim Can't Swim. My brothers love him. I don't know if you know who that is. It's like a crime philosophy guy. He's got like millions of followers. And my brothers watch his videos like religiously. So they made me watch it when I came here. And he put out a video of this guy. He was like an heir to like the lumber factories of this country. And he killed his girlfriend. Her name was Yardley Love in 2011. And they like go over like his police interview. This guy goes over police interviews or whatever. And this kid was like an idiot. But anyways, I went on this whole tangent just to tell you that it's like this super rich, dumb, idiot kid is the baby. I don't know why I just went on that whole tangent. It's pretty pointless.
Sorry, you've probably been awake
But
for like 12 days at this point. So
yeah,
yeah.
well, I've been, I think when you are like watching kids, you're not just tired, it like brings on a whole new like level. I've never even, I don't have any kids of my own, but I love my nephews. They like want your attention all the time and
Yeah.
you try to give it to them so they feel it. But
Yeah.
then they want you to like stand up and just jump with them in place. Like, why are we doing
Well, because why not? I am a small child and I'm full of calories. We need to burn them. Yeah.
this?
Okay. So purportedly stupid says electric stoves are better than gas. Fight me.
I will die on the hill that gas stoves are superior. Electric stoves suck, and nobody actually likes an electric stove. Okay, bring Gordon Ramsay on here next time, Houston Waits, and we will ask him. Okay, could you imagine going to a restaurant and they used an electric stove? It has never happened. It will never happen. There's a reason. Okay, electric stoves are so like no. So I'm sorry.
Well, Star Wars says gas stove is better for pyromania. Also a pet monkey for me. So there you go, buddy.
Gas stoves are better for next bridge hydrocarbons. How about that?
Finn Germius, did you use the curry I sent you? I've used some of it, but I have not made a full blown like goat curry yet. It's my favorite meal, by the way.
Goat curry, interesting.
Yeah. And the trumpet source, is there a timeline for an objection? So
That's the thing, there's not.
Yeah.
It's kind of at the judge's discretion based on the urgency. But if he doesn't file something, if he doesn't make a ruling next week, I fly home in the middle of the week. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like if by the time I get home and I'm kind of like back in my zone,
yeah.
if he hasn't filed anything, I think I'm just gonna file another motion and say like I'm requesting him to grant on this TRO again.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna say there's a sense of urgency. People are like bleeding
Yeah.
shares and there's no accountability. So I'm asking the judge for judicial recourse if he doesn't file on it. But there's really not a designated timeline.
Yeah.
The purpose of a TRO is with extreme urgency. Sometimes if you file a TRO, you'll get a same day ruling. Mostly.
Yeah.
Actually.
I mean, I've had to file them against stalkers and stuff, and you have a hearing. Like you hand it to the clerk, you walk in the judge's chambers, they hear your thing, and they rule. And then they'll have a hearing 2 weeks later to like
exactly, to talk about the actual merits of it. Yeah, but you get it because you need to maintain the status quo immediately.
Yeah.
And the judge knows that. I mean, why else am I sending you stuff literally same day? Like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
But
like, I wrote 202 pages in 2 days, man. Like
what did you think that was for? But whatever. So that's kind of that is why I'm hoping that he'll get something over to me quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then I'm going to file again and say people are losing shares and nobody has any answers and they've asked their employees not to come into the office. Like, what is, like, you're just allowing them to continue with this. And I'm assigned to you. I didn't choose you. So do something.
Yeah. Bithead occupier of VWAP Pontiff. He says, "Thanks for the information stream, or for the informative stream, guys. Please tell Rosa that smacks of fraud means it tastes of fraud."
Okay. Tell that person. I heard that in class. I had I loved my law school experience. I had the best professors, and I was that person in law school that would always like pump my hand up, and I had like it's very competitive, right? And I had these
Yeah.
kids in class that I hated. So, and I didn't tell them I hated it, and nobody probably knows. So I hope none of them watching this, but like we'd all kind of look at each other and we all want to raise our hand faster than the others. And I would be right a lot. So my professors would just stop calling on me until other people got it wrong. Then they'd say, "Okay, Rosa, what's the answer?"
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
student I was. Okay,
yeah.
so little things like would like cling to me, like little bits of knowledge would just stick with me forever. Like in my securities class, because I was a little teacher's pet kind of, and I really, really adored my professor, and he was such a great mentor that a lot of what I learned stuck with me. So
Yeah.
now I'm talking to other attorneys, and I'm like talking to them about the securities law, and they're like, "You are speaking Chinese. Like we have no idea what you're saying." And I'm like, "Oh no, who's gonna help me?" And they're like, "Well, if you like, oh
Yeah.
no." So then I'm giving my complaint, and they're reading it, and they're like, "Wow, I'm able to understand. You did a great job." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, great. Like that means the judge can probably understand, right?" They're like, "It depends. How old is he? Like, what is he?" And I was like, "Okay, we'll find out." But um, smacks of fraud was one of them, and I always thought it was like, okay, it just smacks you right in the face
Yeah,
of
yeah,
fraud. But
yeah.
I guess it's something to do with taste.
Well, so there's two examples I can think of that are beautiful, uh, isolated sort of incidences where an expert had to explain something to a judge in a way that the judge was like, "Holy crap, I get it now." One of them was in Chernobyl, the HBO series, and when they had
Yeah.
the physicists come in and explain how the reactors worked, he did it in such a way that a 5-year-old could understand, and everyone was like, "Oh!" And I thought it was beautiful. But another is if you ever get a chance, I can't remember if it was Frontline or Nova did a sort of a reenactment documentary of the Dover, Pennsylvania creation science case. So the school board had ruled that these creation science books had to go out that basically said evolution isn't a thing, and then they got sued, and it was the Discovery Institute, the Seattle creation science think tank, and they had created this textbook, and they brought in several biologists, the people who were suing the school district, and the judge had no idea how any stuff worked. He just wasn't a biologist, did not care. He just thought, oh, Bible says everything's created, cool. And they brought in these scientists, and the scientists did such an amazing job explaining how this creation science book was wrong and did not teach kids anything that was accurate. And the judge was like, "Oh, you've totally convinced me 100%. I have seen the peer review now, and okay." And it it's so like something I watched it 20 years ago, and it still sticks in my head as to what a beautiful job they did explaining this very complex issue to a judge who had no backstory to it. And yeah,
That is why I thought that he was just like, I thought that he was meeting with experts
yeah,
to like get a better understanding. I think when you file anything, you have to cite like every sentence. You can't just give your own opinions. It has to be cited.
yeah,
So it's like, okay, you cite something and you talk about the facts, then you say, "See, this is why this applies because
mhm,
blah blah blah." So I was citing like definitions of stuff like based on the SEC website, here's what a short is. Here's
yeah,
what naked shorting is.
yeah,
And the SEC made it illegal on this date. Like,
yeah,
like I was doing that in my like industry background and in my little introduction to the complaint. So it was like, here's what you really need to know, and here's the relevant parties and non-parties,
yeah,
and let's just roll. And people are telling me like, you need to explain the whole transfer process. Not really. I need to explain what FINRA did and not over confuse.
yeah,
When you over confuse, you just like if I go through the birth of a company all the way through like to this merger, like it's too much. I just need to give what's relevant and create like the string and say,
yeah,
see, we're following the string, and do you see where they tugged on it? We need to correct that.
yeah, yeah. I think it's great. Yeah,
But
not to overwhelm him. Because
Yeah, like, this is a bunch of mumbo jumbo, I'm not gonna deal with it. No, it's not
yeah,
that crazy. It's
yeah,
not that hard to explain. There's 300 shorts or what, or 300 shares, 300 million shares, whatever. 165 million are legit.
yeah,
They're saying that there's not 300 million. Prove it.
yeah,
Because you were supposed to exchange MMTLP for next bridge hydrocarbons. Instead, you're giving people more QSIPs because it's taking longer than it should.
yeah,
But you also made, if it's just because it's taking longer than it should, why did you implement the halt at all?
yeah. Wouldn't you want to clear some of
Oh,
those shares up if it's yeah,
yeah, like everything's all good. It's just taking, we told you it would take up to a month.
yeah,
Okay, then why did you implement the halt at all?
yeah,
Why implement it at all?
yep,
Because something is going on and it's shady, and just give me the receipts. Bring me the accounting.
yeah, yeah. And I don't think they can, either I don't think they can or they're going to be unwilling to. So
Yeah, I think that they're gonna try not to, or they're gonna. I think here's the thing: if they drag it out, if the judge gives me an order and they drag out actually presenting the accounting,
mhm,
I'm gonna request a motion to the judge for a writ of bodily possession for all the CEO members.
yeah. I don't know what does that entail
A
or
writ of
do?
bodily possession means
Yeah.
they're held in contempt of court in a jail.
Oh, nice. Okay. All
Like
right.
you actually arrest somebody
Yeah.
through a writ of bodily possession. So if the judge says you're in contempt of court, right?
Yeah.
Then we issue a writ of bodily possession, and then that means the sheriff can go and arrest you.
Yeah.
And then you're held in the jail until you present the document that you're supposed to give. So if you owed somebody a lot of money,
Yeah.
right, and you never paid it, let's say I got a judgment on you, Houston, Seattle, I said he's confusing me with the Houston and the Seattle, and I don't like it. I'm gonna go ahead and sue him, and I win a
Yeah.
judgment. And you're supposed to fill out something after that called a financial affidavit, right? And it's like, my name is Houston, I own all this property,
Yeah.
here's how much money I have, blah blah blah. If you don't submit it to me with pay stubs or whatever,
Yeah.
and you also don't pay me the judgment, I can go to the judge and say, Judge, he's just ignoring me, and I want to go to contempt of court. I want contempt of court for him. I need you to issue a writ of bodily possession for me. And then you go and you take the writ of bodily possession to the sheriff, and the sheriff arrests you until you fill out that form and get it signed by a notary
Yep.
and present your pay stubs.
Okay. All right.
We actually got one for a client one time against some lady who owed him a lot of money, and she was a scammer. She was scamming like she scammed like 10 other people, and she kept like just closing LLCs and opening new ones.
Yeah.
But for our client, she was a guarantor in her personal name. So I got rid of bodily possession against her. And the sheriff was like, listen, ma'am, you can just fill this form out right here in your living room and give it to me, and I won't take you to the police station.
Yeah.
And she was so scared. She filled out that form within 30 minutes. Yeah, because she ignored us for months, for
Yeah.
like almost a year. She just
Yeah.
never filed anything. We got default judgment. She just completely thought she could just ignore it and it would go away.
Yeah.
And then she was about to be taken to prison. And then all of a sudden she's emailing us, she's calling us, like, yeah, now suddenly hear from
Oh,
you after a year. So
I the image of some big to-dos facing contempt charges like that would just like
I say, I think Christmas will come again for you guys.
exactly, yeah.
Right? You love it twice.
Yeah.
So I would ask for a writ of bodily possession until they filed.
Yeah. Excellent. Fantastic. All right, did I
It's one of my new favorite arsenals, right? It's my new favorite thing to keep my little, oh yeah, you don't wanna, but you haven't had this one. People rarely use it. It's very rarely used.
Yeah.
Usually they just impose money fines or just, judge, please make them do it.
Yeah.
I like the great bodily possession. How would you like to spend a nice night in a cool lockup?
Yep. Yep.
That's that's one of my favorite things to use. People don't use it. I've heard of so many attorneys like, we don't do that. Nobody does that anymore. They did that in the 80s. I'm old fashioned girl, I guess. I like me a good contempt of court.
Okay, let's see if I find a couple more questions here before I'll let you finally go to sleep. Okay, that has nothing to do with anything. Okay, people talking. They're having their own conversations here in the chat, so it makes it hard to find good questions for you. Has Michael O'Hara wants to know, has Rosa gotten in touch with former SEC lawyer Alexandra Damsker?
No, after my last talk with Smokey, somebody did send me her actual Twitter handle,
Mhm.
and I just haven't reached out because I've been traveling.
Yeah.
But I know that people said that she's going to be on a Twitter space, I think tomorrow, or maybe maybe not tomorrow. Tomorrow's like Christmas or something,
Yeah,
right?
Christmas Eve tomorrow.
Oh, so I don't know. Maybe she's not doing it tomorrow, but on the day that it is not a holiday for 90% of Americans,
Yep.
I think she'll probably be doing it, and then I'll maybe jump in or message her or something.
Okay. All right. Okay. Zan Carr wants to know, how long can an event be extraordinary before it isn't?
Right. And also, how can something be an unforeseen event when you've got notice of it since July?
Yeah.
Like,
You
how can
knew.
you, yeah, like unforeseen? What the hell does that even mean then? Like, what is the definition of unforeseen if you've gotten 6 months notice?
Yeah.
I'd love to know because I'm going to start using that to my boss. This is an unforeseen event. Rosa, you knew you were going on vacation months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Define it for me. Define it for me.
I do want them to have to explain in court what the extraordinary event is. What
I
is
would
it?
love to get it. I would love to get it on paper. I would love to get somebody to say it on paper and sign their affidavit
Yep.
when you file, you
Yeah.
know. I would love to get it.
Seminole Church, take those nieces and nephews to Culver's or wherever you want. Happy holidays. Well, they sent me money, but I think I'm supposed to send it to you. The super chat. So you're supposed to take your nieces and nephews to Culver's. You're in Chicago
Okay.
right now?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Because you were like in
Yep.
Detroit last weekend. Is that where it was?
Yep. I
Okay.
was my best friend, I grew up in Chicago
Yeah.
and I went to law school here and all that, and then I moved down to Tampa because Florida was very open during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and it made it easier for work purposes
Yeah.
because Chicago was so hard to like work in a law firm, especially when you're new.
Yeah.
They just weren't, it was just not a thing. So I went down to Florida. I got a job there and I just stayed at the same position and then I took the bar exam.
Yeah.
So it was like I was going to take the Illinois bar exam, but you can't really get a job in Illinois at that time. So it was like, okay, I'm just going to, Florida seems like it's going to give me a job.
Yeah.
That was, and everybody, that's the point where everybody was like, oh, you'll get unemployment, da da da. No, you won't if you've been a student and don't have like a real job.
Yeah.
So like that was just like I could just stay at my brother's house and do nothing, which my brothers would, welcome me at all times. They're the best. But it doesn't really sound like the coolest way to live in your 20s. So I decided not to live in my brother's basement and instead I moved to Florida. So that's kind of how that happened. But I was working at a law firm basically as, almost as an associate until I took the bar exam and all that.
Yeah.
And but there is Culver's here, and there's no White Castle. Do you guys have White Castle in Washington?
No, we don't have them out here. No, I see
You
every
don't know
once
what
in a
White
while.
Castle is?
Well, it's like the little burgers. I know they're on the East Coast.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
have you ever had their cheese fries?
No, I've never been to a
They're
White
so
Castle.
good.
I don't know.
Oh my God, no, that's crazy. I used to love White Castle cheese fries, and I used to love Culver's cheese curds. Maybe it's like cheese.
I'm like, we get poutine here, so like gravy and cheese curds.
Oh wow.
And yeah, that floats my boat. And you can do all sorts of kinds, like they do like bourguignon, or there's like a certain Quebec style where it's like chicken and gravy and cheese curds on your fries, and it's just dynamite. And you can feel like your heart slowing down with each bite. But
Every bite.
but like 30 seconds enjoying this and 30 seconds less life. I think I can make that trade.
Yeah. No, I definitely, that was my big thing is my brothers and me liked Culver's because we would actually my nephew, the oldest one, he's like 7 now. He would go crazy he would call them cheese balls.
Yep.
From Culver's, and he would fight you over them. Like if you tried to take one, he'd be like, stop eating my cheese balls. Like that. So he is, I will take them to Culver's. He's a big Culver's boy.
Excellent. All right. We'll figure out how to get you the $20 because I'll Venmo it to you. Okay, let's find, is there Seminole Church wants to know, Rosa, is there anything we can do? Should we file our own TROs in our local federal districts?
I think that it's a good opportunity for other people, but here's the issue.
Yeah.
If everybody files their TROs, you guys know that you have to pay the filing fees. And you have to also, if you want to file pro se, which means without your attorney, you have to physically go to the federal court.
Mm.
And when you want to do other parts of the litigation, you'd have to like go to the court. It's not as logistically easy as it is for me because I can request a Zoom hearing and stuff.
Yeah.
If you guys can and you want to, go to your federal court and tell them, I'm not gonna be present at every hearing. I'd like the opportunity to do Zoom. And then maybe, yeah, and I'm telling people, anybody who wants to take my complaint and change it and make it your own, please feel free to do that. The complaint includes a preliminary injunction.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like built all in. And then the TRO just says reference all the information in the complaint.
Yeah.
So you can really take the package, make it your own based on like when you bought the shares, when you this, when you that,
Yeah.
and you can file it. But once you do that, you then have to pay for the process server, and sometimes they charge you for like different filing fees for each document. It's like
Yeah.
10 cents a page or something stupid. But um that's just things that I want everybody to be aware of because some people are already losing money, and it's like if one of us can get this if one of us gets an order, just
Yeah.
one, that could be enough to knock down a door. But I think another good thing is people are really making noise around it,
Yeah.
which I think matters. Once you open the lights, cockroaches run.
They don't
So
want to deal with this. They just want to kick the can down the road and we just forget about it or die or something. And
yep.
The fact that we are just having a hissy fit, they're like, holy crap.
They didn't have their employees go to work. That to me was enough to say they thought, just don't go to work for a couple days.
Yeah.
It'll all blow over.
Yeah.
Or are you planning to keep your employees working remotely for a year? Because I will raise Cain for that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So I think that as long as people keep making noise around it, when you turn on lights, cockroaches run. And that's the way I see it. They didn't have any of their employees at the offices.
Yeah.
In Florida, and somebody went in South Florida, and somebody went to an office in like Virginia.
Yeah, there's like I think 8 branch offices or something around the country. Yeah.
But 2 of them were verified empty.
Yeah.
So you told all your employees to stay home. Like that to me is enough to say, like they know that they think that this is gonna blow over.
Yeah.
And they want to deal with it in the meantime, and they know people are upset, and they know that this is unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
Like they know that they have never put this position where they were scared people were gonna come and start fighting or whatever,
Yeah.
or maybe start shooting or something.
I mean, it's America. Someone will come with an AR and just absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was their fear.
Yeah.
But if that's your fear and you're having everybody stay home, you know that you've made people mad enough. You know something's going on.
Yeah.
And you also think that we'll keep them home for a while, send people back to work when it starts to calm down. Don't let it calm down.
Yeah.
Just don't let it ice.
Yeah. Keep calling. Keep being annoying as hell. I mean, you shouldn't call the judge anymore, obviously.
No, I'm not going to call him anymore.
But
I'm not going to call him anymore. He said, I do not need to hear this again or something. Yes. I was like, all right, bro, I get it.
But,
like,
Congress just went on their their vacation until recess. That's what I'm looking for. Recess until, I think, the 3rd when they seat the new members. So, they're not going to listen to you.
And then they're in session, aren't they?
And then they're in session after the 3rd, yeah. But but that means the Congress people are home, which means they're checking at their home offices for the next 2 weeks. So you can go to your local rep's office, your local senator's office, and you might even get a face-to-face this time of year.
And if you go to your local senator's office, a good thing I would say too is you guys are giving FINRA this authority. Do you even know what they're doing with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what they're doing with it? Do you know what they're doing to me? Because I elected you.
Yeah.
So do you know what they're doing to me? And how are you gonna hold them accountable?
Exactly.
That's a good question. What are you planning to do?
And it's definitely a bipartisan issue. It does not matter what side of the aisle you're on.
Yeah.
This affects every single solitary person in America because every person in America has a pension, a 401k, an IRA, a personal investing account, because that's the only way you can retire in this country. So everybody's involved.
Funny. My professor, who I always rave about, and I can see now why I'm a stalker. I talk about him a lot. He wrote a book called Empire of the Fund, and it's about how mutual funds are like a failed experiment on Americans. Because Americans had pensions.
Yeah.
And your pension was like until you die, you're gonna get like half of your salary. So you were gonna be living like a livable wage. And it has like a mechanism to adjust for inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So pensions were driving companies like down. Companies were filing bankruptcy. States were trying to file bankruptcy. The state of Illinois tried to file bankruptcy because they could not pay out their pensions.
Yeah.
But a state is a sovereign, so they cannot file bankruptcy. And it's just like that was a whole thing. Illinois was like, oh my gosh, what the heck?
Yeah.
So that was like its whole thing. But after that, they were like, what are we going to do? Instead of companies paying out the amount you're going to receive, they said, we're going to pay in to an investment account, let the mutual funds take care of it and the hedge funds take care of it or whatever, but you're not eligible for hedge funds.
Yeah.
Hedge funds are where you make your money.
Yeah, you get put $1 million in minimum. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody's in these little mutual funds whose only form of income for the mutual fund managers and for the investors is based on every time somebody joins or every time that you make a certain transfer. So they have no incentive for you to make money. Hedge funds make a percentage of your profit.
Yep.
So that's why those are the crazy guys on crack, because they're doing drugs and high risk all the time and going crazy on the stocks and just like, making tons of money because they're getting a cut of it. So they have stake in it. Mutual funds are like a failed experiment. And my professor writes in this book, and it like really, that's what really got me into stocks too, is because he says like the average American right now needs to have in their mutual fund by the time they want to retire at least like over $2 million. Mm-hmm. Which is just not attainable right now. Like that's not happening because your mutual funds are making you back like 2% a year.
Exactly.
And
which
they're
is
claiming
below inflation.
Yeah, exactly. So he was saying how it's like it's been an experiment and it's now coming to maturity, and it's matriculating to people now trying to retire on their mutual funds. And they're going to start to realize you cannot retire on this.
Yeah.
And then we now have an issue where you have generations of people with no retirement plan.
Yep.
And the average American doesn't make enough money to have a savings to retire on. So we're coming to the point where the government's going to have to figure out, what are we going to do? All these people are going to become wards of the state.
Yeah.
Because also, Arab culture, we take care of our parents. Like I could never imagine like not taking care of my parents. Although personally, I'm kind of off the hook. I have 4 brothers. They're wonderful human beings. God bless them. But like American culture has nursing homes and stuff, right?
Yep.
So you're gonna have these people who are gonna be wards of the state, because who's paying for the nursing homes?
Exactly.
Who's paying for the benefits, right? Like
all Medicare. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not so bad that it's like, well, even not just Medicare. Medicare doesn't cover some of it. Yep. So now they have completely no income, no money. The only thing they have is Social Security, which is not enough.
Yeah, it's $1,200 a month or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a couple $100 a month or whatever. And it's like, and nobody owns homes.
Yeah.
So it just becomes, it's like a scary, it's just like very scary, where it's like the opportunity to act is now, right? How about you start figuring out what you're going to do about these stock markets that are rigged against the investors? Yep. And maybe then you don't have to worry so much about people not having money to retire on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways.
Hungry Caveman says, send this to Rosa too. We appreciate your work so much. Thank you, Rosa. I'm going to have to send you some Venmos here. That's what's going to happen.
Okay. Well, Venmo is just my name. I think, I didn't know that this was going to happen, where I was going to get all this notoriety. Yeah. And then people found my name and it just... Yeah, and everything is in my name. So I couldn't hide, right? My Twitter, my Instagram, my Venmo, it's all just my first and last name. So people are like, who is this Roza Tawil plaintiff? Yeah. It's like, and every single thing I've ever posted online just appears because my username's all Roza Tawil. Like, there's no hide.
Yeah. I mean, there's 5 other Houston Wades out there. Actually, it might be 4 now, because I think one of them was like 98 and he passed away in Oklahoma a couple years ago. But the other poor Houston Wades, they just... It's like their profile pictures is just them in digital camouflage, like holding up a deer head, and they're just trying to be like simple country boys hunting duck and riding on ATVs, and then I'm just some asshole on the internet who doesn't ever shut up, and they're getting constantly tagged for things. It's the wrong Houston Wade.
There's no other Roza Tawil, Roza, except for one Miss Lebanon.
Okay.
Some girl who won Miss Lebanon. So I'm not Lebanese. So
yeah.
I know. So I was like, wow, somebody else to bring our name to notoriety. And she fell off.
Yeah.
very shortly after, and I was like, no, people all just found me. There's no hiding, so I embraced it.
Well,
I guess.
the most famous Houston Wade actually was a historian at the University of Texas back in the 30s, and he was a Sam Houston historian. So, so like if it's not me, my stalker talking about me, it's going to be, oh no, she's gone again. It's that guy. we'll just do one more here. Why not? Okay, participants. Boom. Invite. Copy invitation. Go here. Go there. All right, see if she comes back one more time. Terima kasih Rosa from Samino Citra Wireja? I hope I'm saying that right. I have no idea. Welcome to the Monkey Butt Show. Yeah, it's the Monkey Butt Show. Hey, buddy. You're in there somewhere, right? It's the butt of the monkey butt is visible. There it is. All right. Looks like she I don't know if she'll jump in here or not. We'll see. At least we could like do a proper goodbye over the next 40 minutes or 38 minutes or whatever this might happen to be. Why keep kicking Rosa off? Turns out when your school's not in session, I no longer have long Zoom anyway, and it wasn't working that well to begin with. Okay. Put in the notes from Venmo, gift or dinner or something. All right. There we go. And she's back. All right. We're having such a lovely time, and then Zoom keeps just kicking you to the curb here.
I know.
But yeah,
Zoom
so so I mean, we can wrap it up, I guess. If there's other things people want to ask real quick, might as well get a couple more before. We're just going to keep you awake until 5 a.m. here. Alaskan Monroe, Rosa, what's to say the opposition isn't listening and taking notes?
Even if they were, everything you do legally, like, you know why the judge won't meet with me or let me even call his office on the side? Because nothing can be one-sided. Everything has to be both, like, in writing. You have to like put your motion, your legal argument in writing and present it. And I hope they are listening, because so they know that if they lose on this, I'm coming for writ of bodily possession. I'm gonna put you in jail.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope they are listening. Everything legally has to be transparent as far as your legal argument. And then when discovery process comes, you have to give everything that's not work product. So work product is just things that you've acquired in the anticipation of litigation. And there has to be a valid reason that you're anticipating litigation. It can't be like, oh, I know I'm about to do all these illegal things, so I'm just gonna say I'm anticipating litigation, right? Like that's not how it works. So right now that I've been suing them, if they start creating notes with an attorney, those are work product, and I'm not entitled to those. But anything else I am entitled to. So there's really not gonna be much there's not gonna be too much hiding. It's mostly gonna be put your guns up.
Yeah. Okay.
Apt for an American metaphor.
Michael O'Hara, what happens if they open up this to the gray markets next week? How will it affect Rosa?
Well, that's when I push harder and say, Your Honor, what the heck? We have gray market trading and we have a pre-issue. This is not even supposed to be tradable. Somebody sent me something on Twitter that I saw today. They tagged me on a post. It's a lot easier, guys, if you tag me on a post, because if it's in my inbox, I have to like approve the message, and there's so many messages that every day I probably get over 100. So
yeah.
But if
it takes forever to get to them all.
Yeah, it really does. So if you tag me on something, it's a lot easier because it'll just pop the image. Especially if you guys send me a screenshot, I can't see it unless I approve the message. So then I'm getting like hundreds of them. It just gets drowned out. But somebody tagged me on something and it said, next bridge will be tradable. Yeah. And I was like, the person who said that just doesn't know what they're saying, then that's one thing. because maybe they just don't know and they're like, well, there's a lot of short positions and it's probably just going to be tradable to solve it,
Yeah.
right? Like they
Yeah.
just don't know and they're just like assuming. Um, or this is like, what is going on here, right? So it's like one of two.
Yeah. Several people who have Webull have sent me screenshots from, communication from Webull, and it's like, oh, congratulations, you've received your NextBridge shares. We're calling them MMTLPZQ594,
Yeah,
and
whatever.
this is the QSIP number. And then I'm like, you didn't get any NextBridge shares. If you have a
Yeah.
QSIP, you don't have NextBridge. And
Yeah, not just
yeah,
that. AST is going to issue NextBridge because AST holds private company shares that are not tradable.
mhm.
So they're going to hold these private company shares and they're going to issue probably actual shares. And when they do that, they're going to tell you your brokerage has to transfer everything to AST because everybody's called AST by now. We probably
Yeah.
all know the employees on a first name basis, but they've told how many of us you don't have to do anything. Your brokerage is going do it because NextBridge hired AST
Yeah.
to be their share
The
manager.
transfer agent. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the transfer agent, but it's also they're going to be the ones that manage the actual private shares. So they're going to manage when new trades happen,
Mhm.
new shares happen, whatever. They're going to be like the bookkeepers. So it has to go through them anyways. So they're going to be the ones issuing you shares.
Yeah. What do you think about
Or
the theory that all these Europeans, Australians, Japanese, Singaporean investors that had Torch and got the MMTLP, and they were told, oh, we can't even have access to OTC markets, so all you can do is just hold. That all those brokerages went to AST as soon as those S1s were filed and registered, and that they took up all the slots.
if they did, you know what I think that means for us? Excellent. Because
Yeah.
now if we can get AST to say sign, seal, deliver, everything is filled up and I don't
Yeah.
have anything registered for a Roza Tawil,
Yeah.
boom. That's enough for me.
All right.
Everything's filled up. I'm entitled to my shares and you don't have room for me. Where did it go wrong? FINRA regulator
Yeah.
person who is overseeing brokerages when the brokerages bungled it and you're supposed to solve it before it went to AST. Where were you? You were too busy halting trade
Yeah.
instead of allowing these positions to get. I could have made money on it at market value.
Yeah.
Instead, you've stolen market value from me.
Yeah.
So I need you to open back up the market to synthesize the market value again.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
That's what we want.
Yep. In Latinum, it's got good guess. Here's European to be. I'm gonna have to tell you one hell of a Venmo here when I get my YouTube check. So, okay. Um, Apparently the chat wants us to get married, so we're just gonna ignore that.
Everybody, I've gotten so many marriage proposals. It's crazy. I hope my dad doesn't watch this because he'll be like, "What about this guy? What about this guy?" Like, please, Dad, I don't know these people in real life yet.
Okay, bear markets, bear markets. AST and DTC can't move shares between each other until the chill is lifted. So I'm sure you read about the chill.
Yeah, I didn't read too much about it because it was when I was traveling that
Yeah.
everybody was like, "Look at this DTCC chill or whatever, the DTC chill," and I'm just like I need to look into what is the I don't know. Maybe you have the answers to this.
There is
Historically,
like
when have they used the chill?
Let's see here. I had brought it up the other night, and this is the SEC's website, which no one can see anyway because you're in the way. But what are chill and freezes, and why does the DTC oppose them? Occasionally, a problem may arise with a company or a security on deposit at DTC. In some of those cases, DTC may impose a chill or a freeze on all company securities. A chill is a restriction placed by the DTC on one or more of DTC's services, such as limiting DTC participants' ability to make a deposit or withdrawal of security at the DTC. A chill may remain imposed on security for just a few days or for an extended period of time, depending upon the reasons for the chill and whether the issuer or transfer agent corrects the problem. A freeze is a discontinuation of all services at the DTC. Freezes may last for a few days or extended period of time, depending on the reason. So it sounds like they put a chill on it because they're scared to move things around. That's
Yeah,
what it
I
sounds like to
think they
me.
should be because it
Yeah.
sounds like to me they're trying to wash their hands of the liability. But also what it sounds like to me is they should be freezing it when AST has successfully completed the spinoff
Yeah.
because it's no longer going to be on the DTC,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the fact that it's a chill and not a freeze also tells us something great. Like if it was me, right, and I'm DTC and AST's got all the next bridge and we're all good, yay, confetti.
Yeah.
Um, you should implement a freeze. We are no longer allowing trading on this private stock, no longer on any of our brokerages books. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Confetti again, right? But because that is not what's going on. They're putting a chill because they're saying things still need to be resolved. Like
Yeah.
we have something that is just clearly the books are not matching. And they're having some kind of issue. But do you guys think this is the first time a stock has ever gone private? No. It probably happens 2 or 3 times a month.
Well, the most of the examples of stocks going private is usually when there's a buyout. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, so the
This is a
shorts just
buyout of an
pay.
asset.
Yeah, the shorts just pay out of their pocket a PIL, a payment in lieu, and then the share disappears, and they're cool. This is a really
Yeah.
rare instance where you've got a boatload of shareholders going into a private stock, and I've looked, I can't find any examples of this happening where there isn't a buyout.
But my thing is companies going private, even if it is a buyout, the actual mechanism of doing it
Yeah.
shouldn't be so convoluted, right?
Yeah. Oh.
I'm sure that they it's even if they don't do it so regularly, I'm sure they do it the whole country, right?
Yeah.
Probably quite a few.
Yeah.
Across the country, at least 2, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, so this process is not so foreign to them that they should be having chills, halts, how many different daily list notices. Like this is so unusual because they're trying to hide and they're trying to just prevent knowledge from coming out, and they're trying to find a way to resolve this without like invoking people's ire,
Yeah.
right? In a way that benefits hedge funds.
Yeah. Yep.
They're trying to lock it in so people are forced to take the price at its like at some at some value, right? That is just it's not a true value. Like where are you getting this number?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
right? I keep thinking they're gonna try and say, no, but you didn't lose anything, and we're willing to buy people's shares. Where are you getting the number?
Exactly.
Where
If
are you
you
getting the
aren't
number?
getting it
'Cause
from the market. Yeah.
yeah, I'm entitled to market value.
Yep.
So I'm saying let the market play out and create value based on supply, demand, other synthesis of the market. Lawsuits impact the market, right?
Yep.
We all know that. So many factors impact the market. Oil and gas impacts the market because right now inflation is impacting the market. Like
Yep.
all these factors that cannot be like the market does not exist in a bubble.
Yeah.
So you can't take it out and try and force it into this vacuum and tell me here's what I'm going to offer you because here's what it's really worth.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's worth what the market determines.
Exactly.
So I don't know where you guys are you're trying to hide the ball and chill and cool and halt and daily notice, daily notice, daily notice because you're trying to say, okay, you guys don't want to deal with this anymore. I'll give you a price for your shares. Don't worry, you're not losing anything. You're getting your price for your shares.
Yeah.
No, I want a market.
Yeah.
To determine
And
the price for my shares.
So I for months leading up to this, the S1 gets filed in July. So we're talking about it and talking about it. And people ask me like, what's your sales price? And I said, well, I think there's a lot of shorts that need to close. So I'm hoping for hundreds or thousands. But if the price doesn't get above what I think, a special dividend would be for a sale of the assets, let's say it's anywhere from 30 to 120 bucks, somewhere in there, right? Why would I sell those shares for less than that? Especially if I got to pay taxes on top of it. So, obviously the market price, if they want my shares from me, is going to have to be in excess of whatever I can expect from that dividend.
Yeah, I agree. Not just that. You guys are trying to do this to save face because you know you have to pay up, but we have you backed into the wall.
Yep.
If everybody just said no, I was going to put out a tweet the other day that said, if everybody just said no, open the market back up, I want market value. they would all be just pouring sweat.
Yeah. I mean, we've done the math on the show. Like, we're talking hundreds of
But you
billions
know
or
what the thing is
trillions
going
in
to be?
liability.
Open the market back up. We want market value. And they're going to say, well, we can't do that because FINRA.
Yeah.
Yes, we can, because Rosa filed a lawsuit telling
Yep.
FINRA open the freaking market back up.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's why I've gotten 100 people asking me, why are you doing it this way? Why are you doing it this way? Why don't you sue for damages? Because that's not what I want.
Yeah.
I want them not to say, well, we can't open the market back up now. It's too late.
Yeah.
Nope. FINRA is quite ready. The time is now.
A couple of keystrokes and the market's back open.
Yeah, you guys say it's so difficult, right, to open the market or to issue these shares or whatever, but you have no problem issuing 100 fake QSIP numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
That was an easy problem solver for you just a few minutes ago.
Yep. Yeah. Fidelity says Citigroup will handle the certificates needed to go private. It will act as a foreign depository. I've seen Citigroup pop a couple times on that.
Yeah, AST is a company that's like a bookkeeper. They manage shares. Citigroup, I think, also acts similar to AST. But I think AST does it for the company, and maybe Fidelity has designated Citigroup to do it in like some kind of. They probably have some kind of relationship with AST to say we're going to hold it for. Yeah, for our Fidelity people.
That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah.
An intermediary. But my question now with that whole thing is, AST is doing it for Nextbridge. Citigroup is doing it for Fidelity.
Yeah.
Fidelity may have obligations that have not been satisfied. So AST is the only one that has no obligations to anybody.
Yeah.
It's a pure intermediary that is only acting as an employee or a service provider to Nextbridge. That's like they're employed by us.
Yeah.
Right? Citigroup is employed by Fidelity, and Fidelity has obligations to cover short positions, I'm sure.
Yep.
And that's why Citigroup to me is a little bit more sus. Like, why don't you just send it to AST?
Yeah.
Who is Citigroup? I want mine with AST.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell them. If Fidelity I have Fidelity. I bought some from Fidelity because everybody asks, like, yeah, I'm from Torch, but then I even bought more on Fidelity because Fidelity opened up buying.
Exactly. I bought all my original Torch on Fidelity, and then when they opened up buying, I rounded up to a nice 1,000 shares on it. And yeah.
I bought more. But Fidelity, I haven't reached out to them about it. I've reached out to AST. If Fidelity told me they were going to send them with Citigroup, I would say, I refuse Citigroup. I want AST. Push them all into one space so we don't have different spaces with different names.
Yeah.
Also, because if Fidelity has an obligation to cover shorts or they have naked shorts, I don't want my shares tied to that, right?
Yeah.
So put mine with AST. I don't want Citigroup.
Yeah. All right. Citadel is my intermediary. Ooh, that's from Zankar.
Yeah, wow. I happy holidays. Enjoy them before you have to go back to that reality.
Yeah, as a Chicago girl, you probably saw lots of Citadel things back in the day, bouncing around. Yeah. But now they're ditched the city.
You walk downtown, you're walking past McDonald's headquarters, Citadel headquarters, whatever. You're just like, this is the greatest city, and then you're like, wow, these are a lot of bad people.
When Boeing wanted to screw over everybody in Seattle, they moved their headquarters to Chicago.
I heard. And you're walking past it like, wow, there's a actually, if you drive into the Boeing, they have their own little place, and Lockheed Martin too. They're in the same area where they keep their I don't know what it is, but we accidentally drove in there one time and we were rushed by security dogs. They were like, what are you doing in here? We're like, bro, we literally just took a wrong turn. Sorry, we got lost. Yeah, they searched us and everything. We were like, no, sorry. So it's because you're surrounded by bad people and they're scared of the other bad people. So
XYZ says Citigroup was going to handle the paper or non-CUSIP accounting rather than DTC per recorded conversation with trade desk at Fidelity. Okay. So they are going to be.
That makes me feel a little bit better. But if Citigroup is handling the transfer over to AST, is that what they're saying?
Or they're just going to handle the accounting of these non-CUSIP shares. But,
so they're going to handle the accounting, and then they're going to do what about it? Because what about the obligations that are not satisfied? Maybe Citigroup is like an expert problem
Yeah.
solver.
Magic. I don't know.
Well, if you guys start getting phone calls from Citigroup trying to
Yeah.
buy out your shares, tell them I want market value.
Yep. On
And
market value.
and be like, I want market value on an open market.
Yep.
Not your
Yep.
fake synthesized market value.
Okay. Do we have any other pertinent questions from everybody, or can I let Rosa get some actual sleep this week? Oh, I got one more. Dave Ruttinger, do you think NextBridge will direct AST to make an announcement saying the bus is full?
I think so. I think NextBridge is actually being really tactful in what they're doing, because they put out their website and they asked everybody to register their shares.
Yeah.
I think for good reason. So I think they're collecting the data, and then they're asking what brokerage you hold them with.
Yeah.
And if you hold them with multiple brokerages, and I think that what they're going to do is they're going to say, all these people are making claims, put up your books, or they're going to say with confidence,
Yeah.
I know you have at least 10,000, 10 million, whatever.
Yeah.
And kind of use that to pigeonhole these brokerages. That's what I would do if I was with NextBridge and I got these mass volumes of data from shareholders. I would say, all right, Fidelity, I know that you're holding 70 million.
Yep.
So I want to know which ones did you acquire in the merger?
Yeah.
Right. And which ones were based on trades after, because you opened the buy button.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would do it that way and kind of acquire the information I can, and then say, okay, because we have this many, so these are the actual authentic ones. Here's the obligations. And then you can work with those brokerages to push more pressure on them. Like, you have this many obligations. Do you understand the liability?
Yeah.
And people don't want it. People want market value.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's when you start pushing.
Demisa presents. What does she think of AMC ape stock split and naked shorting? I wish she was an ape. I think she is an ape. I think you're an ape of sorts. But are you in the other meme stock plays at all?
A little bit. So I followed with AMC at the very beginning when it was still like the GameStop stuff, but I didn't pay attention afterwards. So I know that people are. I'm also glad to hear, actually, Houston, that you own actually MMTLP, because I don't know if I told you earlier when I was like, somebody was like bothering me and they weren't even a shareholder. And I didn't even ask you if you were a shareholder. So in that moment I realized, I was like, wow, if Houston's not a shareholder and I just like crapped on this guy because he's not a shareholder and he was kind of bossing me around, I was like, that was really mean.
No, so my story is my brother works for Metamaterial. And so
yeah, I heard about that.
So I can't really talk about Metamaterial. They told me don't talk about it. But what I can say is, they were merging to get a ticker in the US on the NASDAQ, and they merged with Torchlight. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, like they got some oil assets. Oh, if I put this 87 cents in here, I might get a couple dollars back on when they sell the assets. Cool. I'll take a 300% gain. That was when oil was like negative, right? So oil prices were like under the graph was when oil prices were. And then, shit the fan. I didn't even think of it as a squeeze play. It didn't even occur to me that it had squeeze plays.
It wasn't a squeeze play to me either.
Yeah.
I bought it when I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to own an oil field.
Yeah.
Look at me.
and then it just sort of exploded this thing. And I think I may have been the first person on YouTube to even mention it. Simply because I was like, yeah, well, you might get a couple dollars back when they sell the assets. And then the oil prices went nuts, and now it looks like, if they sell the assets, you get a lot of money back. So cool, awesome. I think after I bought, when they started trading, I think my average is like $1.40 or something. So if I could turn $1,400 into something ridiculous and it pays off student loans, cool. And then we got to the S1, and then we started seeing like, oh,
something shady going.
This is going to stop trading, and they're going to have to close. It might not just pay off student loans. It might, buy me a house, a car, and vacation for the rest of my life. And so, it's slowly like become this animal as it moved along. But anyway, this poor person, Demisa, is asking about AMC and Ape stock. So I don't know how familiar you
I will
are with what's
start.
going
I will
on.
look more into it, and then next time I come on, I'll have like a good
All right.
answer because, I mean, I followed the whole GME thing after when GameStop, like, was kind of. I was buying the news, right?
Yeah.
Like it was done.
Yeah.
But I was like, I got so invested in the idea of like shorts, and I
Yeah.
got so invested, and then AMC was the thing, right? When GameStop was like kind of
Yeah.
tapering off. AMC was the whole thing. So I started investing in AMC. I still have AMC shares. And it started just going chaotic, but it got chaotic. Everybody on AMC was like fighting back and forth. I couldn't know who to like follow. People were not giving straight answers.
Yeah.
And then I found out about YouTubers who didn't even have any AMC stocks but were giving their opinions.
Yeah.
And you know why that bothers me is because those people are always so bossy too. Like, you're bossing me around, bro. Put your money where your mouth is. And but yeah, so I will look more into AMC, and then I will have a better answer next time, and we can talk
Okay.
AMC.
All right. Yeah, they just announced they're gonna like take the Ape shares, turn them into AMC shares, and do a big giant reverse split. And it's gonna be chaotic. Well, I'm not a big fan of the CEO Adam Aaron. I think he just kind of does the dumb thing at all times. So like to me, if you want to raise capital for your company, you
Okay.
offer shares at the market to the investors, and the investors pick them up. Adam Aaron
Yep.
seems to seek out short hedge funds who are a bunch of assholes, and then says, "Hey, do you want all these shares at a discount, buddy?" And then they go, "Yeah," and he gives them all at below market to these dudes, and then they sell them and make a profit. And he sold 300 million of these Ape shares below market to some hedge funds, and so now they're when they do this whole combination and uh, reverse split, they're going to be the single largest shareholders. They're going to have like 30 million, 40 million of the 150 million shares that will exist after the split. And that to me just is like, dude, you could have sold at the market to your investors and they would have bought them. And you would have made more money, and you wouldn't be helping these short hedge funds in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
And the same hedge funds that tried to short your company to the ground.
exactly, and I'm conflicted because like I do think they do need to get rid of their debt, but I think like the sales they're doing now isn't making a dent in their debt because they need like billions, and they're like getting chump change, 100 million here, 100 million there, and it's not really it's not the battle fund they need, but we'll see where it goes. I like my hope has slowly withered as each decision comes along. But people say that they're going to be able to explain to me and it's going to be good, but I don't know.
Yeah. I think my thing is, well, my question is this. Hedge funds who short stocks, once they can short you into bankruptcy, they don't have to pay back on the stocks because the shares are canceled. That's why they changed the terminology, I think, in the daily list from canceled to deleted. Because once it's canceled, you don't owe back on your payment. Once it's deleted, that's just a different animal of its own. So that's why I think the daily list was changed to MMTLP. But I think that if you're these hedge fund shareholders and you now own a lot of debt in a company, right? They're taking on AMC, which has a lot of debt. And are they going to be able to dig themselves out? Right? That's a question. Are they going to be able to dig themselves out? If I was a shorting hedge fund and I was also like a poop head like they are, I would just short it. I would just short it to oblivion, bankrupt it, and make so much money on the shorting.
Yeah.
And lose my shares. I don't care. I would short myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what they've been doing. Like when they gave the 11 million shares to Mudrick immediately turned around and just dumped them to try and kill momentum on the stock. And it worked.
I would just short it all the way to oblivion.
Yeah.
Make money on the shorting, and then once it's canceled from bankruptcy, you don't have to repay on it.
Yeah.
If I was a person that liked to see large institutions fail,
and that's
like AMC, imagine AMC
the goal.
across the
yeah.
Imagine AMC across the country not existing anymore. That's sad.
Yeah, I mean they did it with Odeon, Regal, Odeon, those guys. Their stock's down to like 8 cents. They're the second largest movie theater chain in the world. and I bet those guys would have been like, I would have loved to have some apes jump in here and rocket our stock, but they didn't. So we're now about to be defunct, and AMC is going to take on more debt to buy up all of our releases and become like the monopoly of dying theater chains. I don't know.
Yeah, like what theaters are even like is Cinemax still, is that a theater?
No, Cinemax is a network. It's like HBO.
There's IMAX theaters.
There was like Cineplex Odeon, which I think is part of the Landmark Regal group.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know there used to be in Chicago, there used to be at Navy Pier, there was the IMAX theaters. We'd go there on like a school field trip.
Yeah.
So, and I think that was not owned by AMC. That was by something else.
Yeah.
Through IMAX.
Yeah, there's, I mean.
But they closed it down.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, they're closing them all down. So who else is going to, it's going to be like Blockbuster.
Yeah.
That's sad. That's like not a reality I want to live in.
Yeah. Well, in Seattle, we've got this beautiful Cinerama theater.
Given the choice at some point, I will choose to live, by the way. So.
In Seattle, we've got this beautiful Cinerama theater that Paul Allen from Microsoft restored and like made really nice. He actually restored it twice in like a 10-year period because like it's nice, but I want it nicer. Wow. And then he passed away. And it's just been like rotting. Like no one's running it, no one's doing anything. And this beautiful, amazing curved screen theater is just rotting away. And it's people like Jeff Bezos. It's like right in the heart of your entire headquarters. Why don't you do something? He's like, meh. Like you have, oh my God. You have a studio. You got a movie theater right here. Like
why doesn't your like mayors or something do something like use it, utilize it?
Seattle is so terrible at maintaining anything historical. It's just like we had this beautiful ferry, the Kalakala, which is this like Art Deco streamlined stainless steel ferry, and they let it just rot away. They use it as like a cannery for a while up in Alaska, and it's just we do a great job of just like destroying anything that's absolutely historic and beautiful, and they replace it with a couple of townhomes that have those parking garages you actually can't turn a car into because it's like too tight of an alleyway. They love doing that.
Yeah, those like random new like modern, some kind of modern building. Like somebody sent me a picture of those Bezos balls or whatever.
Yeah. They had to make 3 of them like, because for a while there's just gonna be 2 of them in a big tower.
Well, yeah, I mean they're into that modern architecture.
Yeah.
Too modern. It's like that show The Jetsons or
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that is the reality that Seattle's trying to live in.
And I can do the really cool modern stuff, but like at the same time, they really like tearing down the really cool historic stuff and then putting the most like blah gentrified building in its place. That there used to be like gargoyles and things, and now it's just some like.
I'm definitely I'm into the historic stuff for sure. Like, I like to travel and like read about the history of a place before I go.
Yep.
That way I can really enjoy it when I'm there and like appreciate it more. Chicago, we have like a unique history because during the Chicago fire, I think it was like 1846 or something. They burned the whole city down and we had to rebuild the whole city. So it's a new city, but it has its own kind of history. So I love it. But I like to go and like see the history of different places. Tampa has a unique history because the Buccaneers is because Haitians who used to come as pirates, like pirates who would come. It's got its own little thing, but it's sad. You should write your mayor a letter and say, please
save the Cinerama.
Yeah, save the Cinerama. Stopping all the historic things die. Preserve our legacy. You too will die one day. Wouldn't you like but that sounds a little threatening.
Rosa with the legal advice for just submitting death threats to elected officials. You too will die someday.
But XOXO, your fan.
And do it with like cutouts from a magazine, right? Yeah.
Don't use the postal service because that's a felony. So don't use any federal mail, right?
Like bicycle messenger. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hand delivery.
Yeah.
Deliver yourself. They won't know it's you. It just says XO.
Well, Seattle had its own huge fire in 1889. I think it was the year Washington became a state. The whole city burned down because everything used to be built out of wood because all the trees.
The fire went out. fire went out very quickly because it was raining. It's always
After like 1,200 buildings burned down. So then they required, like, you can't build things out of wood anymore. So they required everything to be at least brick and concrete. And so we got like a really
oh
cool district of brick and concrete. But the problem is it's in a zone of fill. So there's these giant hills Seattle's built on, and they took several of those hills and just got rid of them and then filled in the bay and then built on top of it. And geologically speaking, like, that's dumb because it makes this like jiggly mass. So when we get our big
Yeah.
earthquakes, you know, the hard rock goes junk, 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 and it's done. But all this fill, all these historic buildings built on, will jiggle for like minutes later. And because it's jiggling, everything wants to sink and all the light stuff wants to
Yeah.
float. So all these brick buildings just like poof, and then sink into the ground. So
yeah,
they
just probably crumble.
yeah, so they did, after we had the big quake in 2001. They basically went through and ran these like really huge tension cables through all the historic brick buildings and tightened them down to try and keep some of that like a tensile strength in them. But I still don't hold out much hope that these things will survive a big one.
Yeah, well,
you
I
know.
didn't even realize Seattle had earthquakes like that.
Oh well, we've got like LA might get more of them, but we will actually have a bigger earthquake than LA could ever dream of when it hits. Yeah, the subduction zone.
I'm sure
Yeah.
LA is just dreaming of them.
Yeah. They're like, oh man, we really want a 9.5 that lasts for 15 minutes and kills 1 million people. How did it come Seattle gets all the good luck? They get volcanoes. Yeah.
No, I mean, this year I was in the eye of the hurricane. I was in Tampa during Hurricane Ian,
Okay.
and I did not evacuate, so
Yeah.
that was cool. And now I was in the blizzard in Chicago, so that was cool. So now I'll just have to go to see. Tell me when your earthquake is, bro. I'll come.
Well, yeah, wait. It should be soon.
I'm just chasing natural disaster.
Yeah, I mean, just
I'm just
if
chasing
you just come
natural
visit, it'll
disasters.
probably just the subduction zone will trigger, and then you'll have that like little life lesson. Yeah.
Like, isn't this the girl that's always looking for some kind of natural disaster? Let's just give her a show.
I have the opposite, where
then you
whenever
know what?
I leave a place, a volcano will do a fantastic pyroclastic eruption. So I was going to school in Hawaii for years. Mount St. Helens went boom. I leave Hawaii, and then Kilauea goes boom. I just can't win. So
You know what? I was in Hawaii. I went to the Volcano National Park, and it was active, and it was pretty cool to like
Yeah.
go there for sunset and sunrise. So
no, it's great. You
that was cool.
hike
It
out at
didn't
night as the
go off
lava's
for
going to
me.
the ocean. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to see all that.
Yeah.
But if it makes you, feel worse, then I can make up a story
Yeah.
that I witnessed it.
Yeah, you say you saw some
Let me know.
eruption and lava bombs
Yeah,
falling
it-
everywhere. Yeah.
I just drove right past it, actually.
Yeah.
Feel the heat.
All right. It's almost midnight here. It's a ridiculous hour for you. I'm going to bid you adieu. I want to thank you so much for coming in here. You clarified a whole bunch of stuff, and I think I think going on all everyone's shows is a great practice for having to tell the judge what the hell's going on. Right?
Yeah, it is. It's also, people are so anxious, and I understand it. So I want to just keep people updated. Like, for me, I know how the process goes, but other people don't know what is actually going on, and they don't know what is a typical process. So when you just don't know, it's a lot of anxiety that can come around it. So I try to like keep people updated. Like, here's how it usually goes, trying to explain it, but sometimes you explain it better than other times. So it's like, I don't mind doing the YouTube on other people's YouTubes. I'm not tech savvy, so I'm not gonna host my own YouTube. But I figure people will come and ask me good questions, and I'll be able to answer them, hopefully.
Yeah, excellent. Well, do you think there's a chance the judge might make a ruling next week?
I hope so. I think I mean, he saw it's an emergent filing. They were served on the 22nd. That was what, Thursday?
Yep.
If they if he doesn't do something by the time I'm home next week, I'm gonna get home like midweek. So if he doesn't do something, I'm gonna file another motion saying, you don't want me to call you, you want it in writing. Well, here it is in writing, but move on with it. Let's go.
All right. Cool.
Maybe not in those words. Then he'll probably say tonight.
Yeah, stop calling me. All right.
Stop writing me too. Boom.
Everyone's saying thank you so much for stopping by. Promise me that you'll come on if there's an order, and we'll do a postmortem, regardless of what
Yes.
the order is. Just
What
want
it
to
is.
break it down, play by play.
I will.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I will. We'll keep in touch and then figure out what works out for you in your Seattle time zone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a night owl, so anything nighttime works always. But and we have 538 night owls in here right now. So, but
Yeah.
yeah.
People are dedicated to the cause. Good for you guys.
All right. Well, good night. Thank you so much.
I'll see you again. Hopefully with good news. Yeah, good night to you too.
All right.
And I'll hope to come on, and we'll be celebrating next time. Hopefully. Fingers
Excellent.
crossed.
And I'm gonna get you that if you are a catalyst, I'm getting you that Letterman's jacket that says catalyst.
Letterman's jacket. What am I wearing? On a blazer.
Yeah. No, it's got to be Letterman's jacket with a full on like MMTLP and giant fuzzy letters.
Okay, yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear it to court every time I go in. I'm just gonna turn around before I go.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Good
Have a good night. See ya.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. And Monkey Butt, do you have anything to add? You have nothing to add. Thank you, everybody. That was fun. We'll be doing a show at some point on Monday. Yeah, it's time for bed. Like, what are you all doing up still? Go to bed. And I'll leave you with this, which will lull you to sleep. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Merry Festivus. Enjoy your weekend and spend time with family and have a great time. And they just totally, Zoom just kicked me off of my own Zoom. So I am in the dark. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great one.